Press. We are from NACCIMA Bank. NACCIMA is Nigerian Export-Import Bank. We are the Trade Policy Bank of Nigeria. We have the primary mandate of diversifying the economy of Nigeria away from oil. So anything that has to do with non-oil, we are there. This management got in 2009, and we are trying to look at how has the volume of our trade within West Africa, we started with West Africa, within the ECOWAS sub-region, how has it been increasing? And we saw that it was not increasing. Meanwhile, the bank was lending money to people to trade within the sub-region. And we wanted to follow our exporters to the market and try to appreciate why, in spite of our funding, the volume of non-oil trade flows are not increasing. And we discovered that our exporters have huge challenges in moving their goods from here to other member states of ECOWAS. And you know that if you get to the markets or the member state of ECOWAS, most of the products that you find there are Nigerian products. But we had very huge challenges. And I normally try to give this example so that we can better appreciate why we have to initiate this Sealink project. If you have to take your goods from here to Tema Port in Ghana, for instance, by road, which is the major method of transportation, you have a lot of multiple checkpoints. You have multiple checkpoints. You have harassment from security agencies. And over the years, there has been no improvement in road infrastructure. With all these challenges, it will take you like 6 days if you are taking your goods by truck. But if you have to take your goods from this same Lagos, either Apapa or Tinkan by sea, to the same Tema Port in Ghana, it's going to take you a minimum of 60 days. Yes. It take you close to 2 months. Because we don't have any cargo vessel here. So we are going to use the European vessels. They will first take our goods to Europe and then do a transshipment of our goods from Europe to deliver them in Ghana. Under that kind of scenario, we can continue year after year that we are going to dip in trade, but we won't be able to dip in trade. And the other forms of transportation, they will take a very long time for us to actualize it. If you are talking about building railway, it's going to take a long time. Even if you are going to talk about enhancing the road network that we have, the amount involved and the time involved is going to be extremely very difficult for us. So we decided as a trade facilitating agency that why don't we find a quick win solution to this? And the quick win solution is for us to try and initiate the setting up of a maritime shipping company, knowing fully well that most of the member states, most of the countries that we're talking about, they are coastal countries. So the level of maritime trade needs to increase. That was how we came up with the idea of engaging consultants to go around all the 15 member states of ECOWAS. Initially, we were thinking of only West Africa. So they went around all the 15 member states of ECOWAS so that we can better appreciate how we are going to start the process. It was the process of our consultants going around that they met with the officials of the Federation of West African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that is FEWASI. And FEWASI were saying that they've been on the neck of ECOWAS Commission for some time to give them a grant so that they can carry out this kind of study. But now that NACCIMA is doing it, they will follow NACCIMA. NACCIMA is doing it because we know that it is the private sector. It is NACCIMA. It is FEWASI. It's the private sector that is going to trade. It's not the government. So we said we cannot continue to wait. Within the ECOWAS sub-region, we have about 308 million. Nigeria controls about 170 million. The GDP of ECOWAS, we contribute over 60%. The political and financial institutions that are owned by ECOWAS, if we say yes, it's yes. If we say no, it's no. And because we have these non-tariff barriers, somebody somewhere is waiting for Nigeria to take the initial step to see how we can overcome these challenges. And that was how NACCIMA came in. Now, the question is, why do we need a dedicated regional Sealink? We already explained that the high transportation cost and the excessive transit time, talking about almost 60 days, taking your goods from here to Ghana, that has made West and Central Africa, to have the highest transport and logistics cost in the world. But this is where we have the potential. This is where the opportunities are. And why do we need it? Because in Nigeria, it's not as if we don't have vessels, but the vessels that we have, they are not for dry cargo. Everybody is buying vessels for oil. All of them are liquid. So there is complete absence of dedicated, safe, and modern fleet to encourage and facilitate Atlantic short sea trade along the West and Central Africa. We don't have any ship that, like I mentioned, that can take our goods from here, even from Lagos to Calabar, from Calabar to Douala, from here to Tema Port. We don't have it. So under that kind of scenario, there is no way we'll be able to increase our volume of trade, because by the time, if NACCIMA, for instance, gives you 1 billion naira, and you produce goods that are into 20 containers, you need about 20 trips. If you have to move these goods by truck, you need to make 20 trips. By the time you make these 20 trips, whatever margin that you are looking at, that margin is gone. So year after year, you see our exporters putting in their best efforts, and these efforts are leaking because we don't have that infrastructure to be able to conserve what we're doing. So without a shipping line, there's no way our exporters will have value for their efforts. Now the next thing is that we have inadequate transport infrastructure among member states and non-tariff measures that are a barrier to how do we increase the intra-regional trade. We cannot deepen the regional integration, and the free movement of goods, persons and services will be hampered. Of course, we have the ECOWAS Commission. The ECOWAS Commission has tried over the years. A lot of protocols, a lot of treaties have been signed on how we can ease the movement among ourselves, but there are a lot of impediments. Because of that, there's low level of intra-regional trade at less than 10%, that is within Nigeria, less than 10%, and 12% for Africa and ECOWAS. That's to say that within Africa, our own level on traditional trade is just 10%, and within ECOWAS, it's just 12%. And looking at the huge size of our economy, one shouldn't be talking about these minimal figures. And if you compare that with the EU, the NAFTA, and the ASEAN, the traditional trade, the European Union, you have about 50. The North African trade, you have about 40, and the Asian countries, you have 25. So you can see that we're just groping in the dark. We have not even started. Why this is going on? The level of goods that we have are increasing. Because the growth of intra-regional trade in the past decade has grown from 4.7 million tons to about 13.2 million tons without a corresponding increase in road infrastructure. Our roads over the years, which is a major source of moving our goods, there has been no improvement. So while the goods are increasing, the roads are going down. So we need an alternative to complement what we are doing on the road. And then there is low level of African container traffic at less than 1% of total world container traffic, or over 400 million containers. If we are talking about 400 million containers in the world, and we are contributing only 1%, and when we know that we are coastal countries, it's not as if we are landlocked countries. Most of the member states of ECOWAS, we are coastal countries. Maybe just about 4 countries that are landlocked. So why can't we have a meaningful impact in maritime trade? We just need to. Now, there has been an increase in West African loaded and unloaded dry cargo in million tonnage from 41.4 and 61.2 in 2009 to 53.8 and 73.2 in 2010 respectively. Central Africa rose from 8.5 to 9.2 and 10.9 to 11.4. What is loaded and unloaded? The loaded is the export. I think that is the maritime terminology. The loaded is the export, and then unloaded is the import. Now the dry cargo, of course, you know. Now this thing has gone in. There's an estimate that Nigeria spent, I think it's a maritime association that mentioned that figure, that Nigeria spent almost $5 billion every year for freight. So you can imagine if we have our own cargo vessels, we should be able to reduce that amount. Providing immediate impact to the amelioration of basic road, rail infrastructure deficit challenges. We have already mentioned that because the roads have not been improved, and then it will take a very long time for us to put a railway in place. And that is affecting the regional integration, and is the major cause why Nigeria is having muted growth, while the growth in our trade is not enhancing, because within the intra-African and ECOWAS trade levels. And we have said that within Africa, we are just doing 10%, and within ECOWAS, just 3%. We need to enhance these percentages. And if we do that, we will enhance the competitiveness of Nigerian value-added export, thereby improving the contribution of manufactured export from the current level of under 6%. You are the manufacturers. You know that most of what we are doing now is exporting our raw commodities. But what the federal government is doing and what NACCIMA is trying to do is for us to add value to our commodities. That time is gone. The economy of the world is in the hands of Africans today. The global financial crisis that we faced between 2008 and 2009, it is only Africa and some part of Asia that stimulated the demand for the world economy to begin to recover. You agree with me that there's no demand in Europe, there's no demand in America. Everybody is coming to Africa because this is where you have the margins. So, gone are those days when we export our raw commodities to these people, they process it, send it back to us, and we buy 10 times what we sold to them. So the destiny of the world economy is in the hands of the Africans, and the time is now. We have to take that advantage. Now, what is the value proposition? You know, we Africans, especially in Nigeria, we trade with our goods. We have not started that practice of selling our goods and then coming after. If somebody is taking his goods from Kano to Aba, for instance, they'll put it in a bus, put the goods on that. When they stop anywhere, maybe they stop in Abuja, as they are taking the goods, everybody will be peeping whether they have taken my goods. That is our practice. And we have taken that into what we want to bring. We don't want to just bring only a vessel that will be carrying cargo only. We want to bring a vessel that will carry both cargo and persons. It will also reduce the load on this road infrastructure that we're talking about. Now, we are coming up with, we have designated 3 routes. 2 routes will carry both goods and passenger. And we are saying that within here, we already have this market. We already have this market here that people trade among themselves. You find, even within Nigeria, people from Sapele moving their goods to Calabar, Calabar moving it to the nearby, and Douala and the rest of it. So we say that the first route here will be both passenger and cargo. If you find a woman that has only one bag or 2 bags, that he wants to move them from Sapele to Calabar. At least there's that region that we are trading among ourselves. It is very unlikely. It's very unlikely for a woman to have maybe 10 bags that he wants to move from Calabar to maybe Dakar. It's very unlikely. So our first route is the one that covers that ring. Then the second one is where you have the upper water, and Mr. Torre, what do they call it? They already have a trading block there.
Trading block.
Yes, they already have a trading block within the upper water. There's a name they call it. So that market is already existing. So we decided that the second route should be the one that will carry both passenger and cargo. Now, the third route that we say it will only carry cargo, we move from Libreville in Central Africa down to Dakar, stopping at the various spots, dropping the goods and all that. That is what, these are the 3 routes so far that we'll be able to come up with. Now, what are the value proposition and the desired result? Our commitment to enhancing regional trade and competitiveness. How do we get the desired results? Provision of state-of-the-art regional maritime services for short sea trade within West and Central African region. It will surprise you to know that it is less expensive to carry a container from China or from Shanghai to Lagos, maybe at $2,500 per container, than to move a container from Lagos, or maybe even to Temako, or even to Douala here. Costs almost $3,500. There's no way, even though we have the opportunities, we have the potentials, we are unleashing them for some other people to come and exploit us. The second one is effective market segmentation and schedule routing strategy. We already spoken about the 3 routes, that we are going to have 1 freighter and 2 combined passenger freight races. And we are going to have initially we are going to have 10 ports where they will be making calls, and operation of the basic timelines, security, safety, and professionalism. Now, the next one is enhancing regional economic activities through proven market demand. Do we have that proven market demand? Yes. The proven market demand is there. If you look at cocoa, for instance, cocoa, you are talking about Nigeria, you are talking about Cote d'Ivoire, you are talking about Ghana and Cameroon. These 4 countries, they control almost 70% of the world cocoa output. But we are not taking full advantage of what God has given to us. So, if we talk about the proven market, that market is there. In Nigeria, we are so much involved in palm oil. Cote d'Ivoire, that is next to us here, has more palm oil that we should get into. But what happens? We go to Malaysia. Because of the bulk trading, because they can move this thing, through the sea and bring it to us. So we are the one that we are losing money within the sub-region. Why don't we buy our palm oil from Cote d'Ivoire? But how do you move it? We are forced to go to Malaysia and buy it in bulk and send it down to Nigeria. So there is a proven demand. Partnership with experienced technical partners. We are looking at having internationally experienced people that can provide a technical and managerial guidance, to ensure that we adopt the best international best practice. We adopt international best practice in the operation of the shipping line what NACCIMA is doing, as we keep saying, is that we are only a trade facilitating agency. But we believe that it is our own responsibility to assist our exporters, to assist our traders to overcome the non-tariff barriers that are within our own purview, which is what we are doing. Now, this is how the routes have been designed. One, you start from Freetown to Conakry, Bissau, Banjul, and Dakar. That is combined freight and passenger cabotage. The second one will start from Cotonou to Calabar to Douala to Libreville. And then the third one, which is carrying only the goods, will move from Libreville to Dakar, docking at major ports along the route. That is what we have planned as initial routes. Now, how are we moving? We got the consultants to carry out the study, as we said. We cannot use that study from day one to set up the transnational maritime sector, maritime company, shipping company. So we needed to come up with a platform. We use that platform to raise money. That platform, at the end of the day, we should be able to transmute into the transnational company. So we set up a special purpose vehicle. And let me explain why Central Africa came into this. The initial mandate that we gave to our consultants was West Africa. After they finished, we now asked them to go to Douala. Because if you get to Cameroon, the only product that Cameroonians know is Dangote products. Whether it is cement, whether it is sugar, whether it is whatever thing. So when they went to Douala, in fact, they were supposed to stay there for 1 day. That is the consultant. They ended up staying almost 4 days. They now met with one of the biggest logistic companies in Central Africa. They called them Transimex. Transimex were at the verge of procuring some cargo vessels. And because of what NACCIMA brought, and because of the collaboration that we now began to have with FEWASI, they also said, okay, they will collapse their own business idea into ours. That was how Central Africa came in. Now, we'll be able to set up a special purpose vehicle, which we are using as a promotional company. And we have 3 shareholders now. We have FEWASI, we have Transmex, and then we have NACCIMA. Now, what is the mandate of this SPV? The SPV has already held about 2 board meetings. The first meeting was held in Douala. Transmex accepted to host it. It was held in Douala. The second one was held in Abuja, last year. We are using this SPV to raise money for the promotional activities of the project. To identify, because we need a platform, to identify and select initial investors. And then the country location. Where is the head office of this Sealink going to be? We're also using the SPV to raise funds for the transnational maritime shipping company. We have already gone far with that. You will have officials from ABN Capital. ABN Capital are the issuing house to the SPV. We expect that by the end of this month, the offer documents would have been ready. And then we'll hold an investors forum. In principle, the ECOWAS Commission, they have accepted to finance the investors forum, which we intend to hold in Ghana sometime next month. But I believe that before the end of April, we should be able to hold the investors forum. Now, we use this SPV to identify and select the management team, to select the technical partners, to come up with the best financing scheme, and we initiate acquisition of vessels. And on this basis, we are also going to come up with a very robust corporate governance structure. Other operational activities of the SPV are to negotiate with government agencies and port authorities. We know that even though the initiative is going to be private sector driven, it is beneficial to all the member states of both Central and West Africa. So we must start discussing with the government, telling them that why don't you give us priority in berthing? If it's our own ship, give us priority. Reduce some of the charges for us and all that. We still need government support in one way or the other. We also need that platform if there's any need for us to update the business plan, to modify the technical report based on the planned regional improvements on the ports, because a lot of the member states have been able to concession their ports. So if you ask the government to say, give me this level of concession, they will tell you, well, we have given it out, but of course they will have something to tell the concessionaire, or whatever you call them. Now, there's need for setting up the loading procedures. Interaction with the uniformed services people, such as the customs, immigration, and the police. These are the people that are really causing the non-tariff barriers. Most of them don't even understand. In other member states, they don't even understand. They don't understand that, look, what they are doing is hurting the whole system. The whole region is, they are hurting the whole, region. They don't understand. So we need to involve these people. Let the customs, let the police, let the immigration, let the gendarmes, let everybody appreciate that, look, when you stop a vehicle and you are giving the exporters a whole lot of trouble, you are hurting yourself, you are hurting the system, you are stopping us from creating jobs for the teeming youth within the region because of maybe personal gains that you want to extract from the person. We need to educate them. I think there's need for us to let them know that, look, what they are doing is not correct. Now, let me say that the funding of the SPV is different from the shipping company that we're going to set up. The consultants came up with a total funding requirement of $61.5 million US. Now we say that the 1.5 million, we are going to use it to run this SPV, to set up all those other items that we listed, to hold all the board meetings, to impress on the government, the various governments within the two regions, so that they can have the political will to support this initiative. And then the 60 million is for the company. So the estimated funding requirements for the SPV is 1.5. That money, for now, NACCIMA is the one financing the initiative, so that at the end of the day, the company should take off. We are discussing with other international organizations to give us a grant, because we did not do an in-depth study into the Central African region, apart from what we did in Cameroon. So we need to have a grant so that we can do an in-depth study down into Central Africa. What we have now is not enough, but we are moving. A lot of the international organizations have, they have indicated in principle to give us over 500,000 US, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to meet up. Now, as we said, as soon as the shipping company itself is formed, the SPV will be dissolved. It will not be dissolved and merged into the shipping company itself. And the management of the shipping company is going to be private sector driven. We keep emphasizing it because it's the private sector that is trading. So we are going to run that company in a very transparent and professional manner. We have said that the funding requirement is about 60 million for us to come up with the shipping company. And we have said that, look, 36 million will come and it will be used to purchase the vessels, to purchase the equipment, the office space and other infrastructure. And 24 million US dollars will come for working capital to cover the general administrative cost. Now, how are we going to raise, how do we intend to raise this 60 million? We are saying that the owners, the equity will come to the tune of 36 million, which is what we have engaged ABN Capital to come out with the offer document so that people can invest in this company. And I'm happy to say that, to announce that as we speak, people have already started paying money for equity. So you can see the level of interest that the initiative has generated. And the 24 million, we said we can borrow that money. Once we be able to raise 36, we can borrow that money from the financial institutions. Now, why are we here? We are here to update this forum on this initiative and to invite the NACCIMA members to know the unfolding development thus far, where we have gone. And I'm happy that the National President, in his welcome address, he has endorsed the initiative, he has supported it, and I want to thank you so much for the support of NACCIMA. We want to invite and solicit for your own investment and partnership in the SPV. We are still driving the SPV. If there's any little amount of money, whatever money you give now is not going to be like a grant. If we get money from any member of NACCIMA, that money will not go as a grant. That money will be converted. Whatever thing that we have in the SPV now will come as preferential allotment, preferential shares, which is the same model like the chairman was saying that, look, people that don't have shares in EcoBank now will be regretting. But we're using the same model that the ECOWAS Commission used in setting up EcoBank, and it's the same model that we are using, which ECOWAS Commission used in setting up iSky. Is it iSky? The airline. You know, so it's the same model, and I believe that NACCIMA coming at this time, they will have an edge over other people that will come after the offer document, you know, have been made available. We are soliciting for your partnership, your cooperation, and to obtain your pledges to participate and support the proposed regional maritime transport initiative, so that we can effectively run the affairs of the SPV and realize the proposed Sealink project. In closing, permit me to say that the broad objectives of the regional Sealink project, which essentially aligns with NACCIMA developmental and strategic objectives of increasing credit flow under the bank's ECOWAS trade support facility. Let me explain this facility. When the new management got into NACCIMA in 2009, we look at the potentials of our own economy. And everybody keeps saying that if you have to get the most industrialized country in Africa, is South Africa. And we were saying, is that possible? As a trade policy bank, we didn't want to just sit down there and argue. So we said, let us find out why are they saying that the South African economy is bigger than Nigeria. We discovered that in South African economy, the level of informal trade, that is unrecorded trade, is very low. Meanwhile, that of Nigeria was very high. I would say, what can be done? What can we do as a trade policy bank? If you get to Kano, the level of informal trade, the Kano people that are trading with the neighboring countries, if you get to Semaboda, the people that are trading with Benin Republic, if you get to Calabar, if you get to Maiduguri, some of them have been trading for the past 20 years. If you ask them for a sheet of paper like this, they don't have it. Okay. And all these are the small and medium enterprises. They have been trading for more than 20 years. Ask them for a sheet of paper, a record of what you have been doing for the past 20 years. They don't have it. So we say that as a trade policy bank, let us try and come up with a facility that will capture these transactions. If you capture this transaction, even for statistical purposes, because you need statistics to rate anything that you are doing. And because we are trading but we don't have statistics to rate the economy of Nigeria, somebody will woke up and said, because South Africa have their own indices, you can use that as a basis to rate the economy. So we now say, look, let us come up with a facility. But again, let me explain why we even thought about that facility. That facility was a sweetener, number one. We wanted to be a sweetener. Nigerian exporters are used to sending their goods to Europe, sending their goods outside Africa. Meanwhile, we don't have the new technology or the clean technology to produce goods that will make us very competitive in these markets. So you find out that year after year, you have an order from maybe EU, you'll be able to satisfy that order, but for flimsy excuses, they will tell you that you are not being able to meet up with the order, with the standard required. So when we got in 2009, we saw, we made some of these problems and all that. But you know that we Nigerians, with due respect, we are used to anything foreign, with every due respect. Now, I try to look at how have other Exim banks in the world, how have they been able to evolve and come to this level, so that at least we can learn from them. And I now discover that the other export-import banks in the world, they segregate their market into two. They have their market, which is their regional market, in this case, ECOWAS. And then they have their non-traditional market, which is any market outside ECOWAS. Because international trade is highly technical, they will first trade among themselves, get themselves fully acquainted with all the terminologies, the method of payment and all that, and be able to unleash all the potentials within their sub-region before they now move out. And when they are moving out of their traditional market, the respective governments will now follow their exporters with risk mitigating instruments like credit insurance to mitigate them against non-payment, political risks and all that. And I said, look, why don't I copy this model? And for me to copy this model, I need to convince Nigerian exporters that, look, there is something at your backyard that is better than looking at outside Africa. So you need to come up with a sweetener. And we said, why don't we develop this facility? Put some money aside and tell Nigerians that if you want to export within the sub-region, this is the money that we have put aside. We'll help you develop the market. We'll help you develop any market access, that you need. So that was why we came up with the ECOWAS Trade Support Facility. So apart from trying to formalize trade, the next one was that these people will go across to the other countries, sell their goods in cash, and put their cash in the pocket and walk back. Year after year, our economy has gotten to a level that we should begin to find ways of making our export more competitive. So we needed to use this facility to also deepen the payment system begin to encourage people when you get to Lome, make your sales, let them come either through Eco Bank, through the banking channel, instead of putting your cash in the pocket and walking back. Because the economy of Nigeria has gotten to a level where what other countries are doing to create market access for their own people, we should be able to do it. And we can only do that within the sub-region if we encourage our people to make payment through the banking channel. What NACCIMA is planning to do is that by 2015, we should begin to give buyer credit facilities. And I explain. If I'm manufacturing this in Nigeria, and I want to say to somebody in Ghana, and you have other people that are manufacturing the same paper, and they are giving the same competitive terms, the only way you can create a market access for a Nigerian exporter is for NACCIMA to give a facility to that person that wants to buy your paper. Give a facility to that Ghanaian to buy your paper. That is where all the Exim banks have gone. And that is the kind of thing that we're looking at. We believe that by the time we're able to build this platform, we should begin to give buyer credit facilities. In NACCIMA now, we have this kind of facilities from India and some other countries. You cannot use that money for any other thing. You can't finance any other transaction apart from people that either want to buy plant and machinery or industrial raw materials from India. And I think within the sub-region, we have gotten to that level. But you can only do that if our small and medium enterprises that are trading, the major traders, are making their payments through the banking channel. Because for NACCIMA to assist, that must be done through the banking channel. So that was one of the reasons why we came up, with that facility. And despite the money that we've been given, the volume of trade was not increasing as much as we were expecting. That was when we moved in to follow our exporters to the market and let's try and find out what is really happening. And then we discovered that there's muted trade because there is no trade barriers. And the only way we can do that is to come out with a cargo vessel that can move our goods. If I give you 1 billion and you'll be able to produce goods that are into 20 containers, you will send them at once. That was how we came up with so that we can deepen the payment system and use the internationally recognized methods of payment, either through letters of credit or